A warm welcome to Refleksjonsrommet. Today we're talking about something that every single one of us touches a dozen times a day, the internet. And more precisely, the state of internet in Europe right now. We'll dive into VPNs, the hidden flaws baked into the internet's infrastructure, the Digital Services Act, and the highly controversial ChatControl proposal. This is an important conversation for anyone who uses the internet, and especially for those who still believe that DSA will lead us towards a safer digital world. After this episode, you will have a much stronger foundation to decide for yourself, are we heading towards a more secure internet or a more surveilled one? And will these new rules apply equally to everyone, or will someone be quietly exempted? My guest today is Adrianus Warmenhoven, the security advisor at NordVPN and a man who's been breaking and defending the internet since the 1980s. Refleksjonsrommet is free and will remain free, but if you would like to support the work that we do, you can make an optional donation via VIPS to 930-00323. Hello, Adrianus.
Hello.
Welcome to the show. Could you please give us a short introduction to who you are and what you do?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm Adrianus Warmenhoven. I've been playing with the internet since like the middle 80s, doing lots of security stuff. And I'm now in the security advisory board of NordVPN. And my task as security advisor is to understand the threat landscape, how things work, what attackers do, what criminals do, what nation states do, privacy and security, all under one umbrella, and I give advice to NordVPN about that.
That's a pretty huge landscape of work you do. I think that it's a really important kind of work these days because security and the internet has probably never been more important.
Yes, I think so too, and well, we'll probably get to it, but there's some design flaws in the internet which make it harder to keep everything secure and private.
Yeah, some people actually just accept that everything you do on the internet is public. But I think there is some problems with that, and that's probably what we're going to talk about. We will also talk a little bit about EU regulations, maybe go into ChatControl a little bit later. But first, why is VPN and privacy actually important? This episode is brought to you by K33. If you want clear, data-driven insights into Bitcoin, crypto markets, and digital assets, K33 delivers world-class research without the hype. Whether you're an investor, a builder, or simply crypto curious, K33 gives you the analysis you need to stay ahead. K33 is also the premium exchange for those who want to invest a large amount with the security, discretion, and professional support that you need. If you are looking for a reliable partner in the digital asset space, K33 has you covered. Visit k33.com to learn more.
I want to start with defining privacy first.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's a lot of different ways to talk about it and look at it. And some people say, well, if you have nothing to hide, why use a VPN? But privacy to me is rather what I'm willing to share. And the difference, it's really subtle, but it's there. If somebody says, what do you have to hide? It means they have a right to see that or to know about that beforehand. But if I want to share something, that can be things that nobody has a right to know about. And this puts the pressure on the person trying to keep their privacy. If you say, what do you have to hide? It puts the pressure on them to prove they have nothing to hide. But that's not true. Privacy simply means I am me and I'm willing to share things to others. So let's keep that straight. And then about VPNs. The important thing about VPN is it tunnels or wraps whatever you do from your machine in another layer, so nobody can see what goes in and out from your computer, a mobile phone, or any other device actually. And that is good because, well, ISPs, your internet provider, they can actually see what domain names you're requesting. Like let's say if you want to go to google.com, it first does a request like, I want to have an IP address. An IP address is a number for the server, and it translates that. So your ISP can see that. And then the next thing is you go there and you do traffic, and your ISP can see that. They might not be able to see inside what you're doing with Google, but they can see how often you go and all those kind of things. So they can have lots of information about you. And with the VPN, you actually tunnel that and make that opaque to any ISP, but also to any criminal and to any nation state agencies.
Yeah. How big of a problem is it that we give away this information all of the time?
The thing is, because we now are really good at extremely large scale things, and we can store things, we can organize them, we can look through them. And it means if you have a cost effective way of doing lots of small things after each other, then even things that aren't valuable in their own, like maybe just the time when you first start going to Google, which is a piece of information which has almost no worth at all.
Yeah.
But if I manage to do that for a specific city, for all of the people in that city, I suddenly have a piece of metadata that says the people in that city wake up in this morning. This percentage goes to Google. And suddenly there's a lot more information about it, and not just data. So with the current big data setup, the enormous data centers we have, all these small pieces of information from you, from me, from everybody else, they build pictures and profiles of everybody, even without us giving that information. But suddenly, all those small things that were valueless are suddenly worth a lot.
Yeah, because you can actually build profiles on almost everyone on the internet.
Yes, and then it's a value.
Yeah. But if I don't have to have anything to hide, why should I actually hide it?
Everybody has something to hide. If you don't have anything to hide, please put in front of the camera your credit card, turn it around, and show the CVC card. It's the simplest thing. Everybody has something to hide, and it gets conflated with criminal use. For instance, a lot of things are not illegal, but you might not want your neighbor to know. For instance, let's say if somebody, let's say I would like to dress up in a pink tutu in my spare time. This is not something illegal. It hurts nobody, but I would definitely not want to share that with my neighbors because it will change their opinions.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. There's tons of stuff in your life which you actually have to hide or want to hide or just simply not share.
Which to have private.
Yeah, which you want to keep private to yourself. And all of them have influence on your life. For instance, for young people, it's even more important because as you see in schools, there's a lot of cyberbullying. And if somebody just shares the pink tutu example, for instance, or maybe they just like dancing, and it's not tough and manly to be love dancing, then they get bullied at school. So privacy is really also for your mental health, for your financial health, and in some ways for your physical health, because you want to hide where you are if you're getting stalked. It's all important for all of those factors.
Yeah. And I also believe that if someone knows a lot about you that you do not know that they know, you can also be easily manipulated.
Yes, that's the same. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
If somebody knows you really well, knows where your pressure points are, and knows everything about you, they can blackmail you or just be at the right place at the right time. This is how advertisements work. Because they know a lot about people. They know about all the triggers, all the dopamine things that go on in our brains. And this is where they place an advertisement or when they say something which makes you want to drink something or buy something. Yeah, that's all with the profile.
Yes. Okay. But how big of a problem is identity thefts in Europe?
It's becoming bigger and bigger, especially as I said, we can collect criminals can collect small pieces of data all the time with something called info stealers, which is a specific type of malware
Okay.
It gets installed usually via malicious advertisements, or they want to click you something with phishing. What an info stealer does, it sits really quietly on your machine, your mobile phone, and it doesn't encrypt anything, it doesn't break anything, it just really silently copies little pieces of information of value all the time to its home base. And
Okay.
all those small pieces you can make to build a profile, an identity of somebody. So let's say I just copy my passport from the scanner on my desktop. An info stealer will quietly just copy that. And because we all have big bandwidth, we don't notice it. So
No.
the home base will have the passport. And then I'm typing in a chat something which identifies me to some of my friends. The info stealer will copy that. And after a while, they have a complete picture. And together nowadays with an AI, with an LLM, but in the old days they could use it as well. But with an LLM, I can just answer any normal questions. For instance, for a bank, if I call my bank, say I lost my pass, and they say, all right, I'm having some verification questions. If there's an info stealer for a couple of months on your system, the criminal will be able to answer any question at all.
Yeah. It's pretty dramatic.
Yes, and we see more and more that passports and credit cards are gaining in value for criminals
Yeah, on the black market.
on the black market, on the dark web.
Okay.
The dark
Yeah.
web is the part where search engines don't come, which isn't indexed, and which actually obfuscate or make it more difficult to access them, the dark web markets. Other than that, they're just like normal markets. They use even the same type of shopping software. It's just a server with a web server on it, but the access has been made difficult. So this is why we call it the dark web. There's
Yeah.
nothing special or advanced about it. It's the same technologies we all use. It's just more difficult to access for law enforcement and normal people. And on those, all of that personal information is being sold. And it gets correlated and added to. So all these criminals are building more and more detailed profiles together with credit cards, together with debit cards, maybe your PayPal, maybe your game credits, because I see a lot of game credits nowadays, like Steam gift cards, Xbox gift cards, Apple. All of those credits that you have somewhere around, they're also being sent out and being sold via the dark web and the markets.
How big is the marketplace on the dark web?
Nobody really knows actually.
No.
It has a couple of reasons. The first is obviously it's not indexed. There's no Google for it, so we don't know to where it stretches. The other thing is that the same pieces of data might occur in different data sets and in different offerings. So it's hard to say exactly how big it is, but we can easily say it's in the hundreds of millions or even billions, probably billions rather than hundreds of millions.
Yeah. In euros, of course.
Yeah. In
Yeah.
euros.
Okay. But just a funny question is: would you say that the dark web is more private than the regular net?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it also has a historical reason. In the old days, when you went to a security website, and it wasn't illegal back then, the website tried to hack you back. As simple as that.
Yeah.
So you really had to defend yourself and make yourself anonymous and all those kind of. So that's where it all started out. So nobody trusts each other on the dark web because that's extremely the thing. And nowadays, it's also because of law enforcement. Because everything I can find out, let's say I'm a criminal, I'm not, but let's say I'm a criminal. Every way I can find out about a dark web market, law enforcement could find it out as well. And you see sometimes in the news when there's a big takedown of a big market, and this takes a lot of effort, a lot of time from and a lot of cooperation from a lot of different law enforcements from different countries. We might talk about the geographical part of the internet and the laws as well later on, but it takes a lot of cooperation, and this is on purpose by the criminals again. They bounce around the whole of the world. They use VPNs, reverse VPNs for their servers. They put proxies in front of it. They do everything to avoid being captured. They also use which is called a bulletproof hoster, and a bulletproof hoster is it's run by somebody in a country that's difficult physically to do stuff in. Let's say, for instance, there's something called Black TDS in Ukraine. It is run by a Russian, and that means that the law needs to go to Russia, but the Russians cannot go into Ukraine to do anything in the data center. So there's all kinds of difficulties that the criminals put up for the law enforcement to actually reach the server itself. And this is, well, because they don't want to get caught, and usually they get large prison sentences. Privacy is really their thing. We also see that some criminals, quite a lot, use VPNs. It's at North, if we know this, we have a lot of measures to at least prevent some activities. We don't know what anybody is doing, but for instance, there's a DDoS protection. You cannot run a botnet and shoot down a website through NordVPN. However, you can access the dark web through NordVPN because we don't know what is going on inside your connection.
Okay. So if you were to use NordVPN and use a browser like Tor, would you be able to access the internet and the dark web? I mean,
yes. However, nowadays we also have a much easier way, and this is why the dark web has grown. It's actually Telegram. Telegram is almost now the de facto basic interface for a lot of dark web listings, because you go into a channel and you see scrolling by all the offerings, and if you like one, you press a button, because Telegram has built it so that you can programmatically add buttons and other activities on a message. So Telegram is really the first interface, but once you want to go further on, then you would need a VPN and a Tor browser.
Okay. And could you just please let everyone know what Telegram actually is?
A Telegram is just like WhatsApp or Signal. It's a messenger app. It's heavily affiliated with Russia, so this is also it might be one of the red flags for you. For me, it is, and it's not really regulated by the rest of the EU law. Well, it is, but they just move away, and people sideload it. Criminals, they don't care about app stores. They just put it on a different device or a virtual device, and then you still have access to it.
Yeah, because you have Telegram and you also have Signal. Signal is European, right? Yes, and then WhatsApp, which is Meta, of course, and American.
Yes, but the encryption, by the way, this is something really important to say. The encryption in WhatsApp is quite good because it has been built by the same people that built Signal. The only difference being that, of course, Meta makes it so that they could be part of the conversation, and of course the app always has the unencrypted messages. So the app itself could really send out the unencrypted messages back to Meta again. Something to keep in mind.
Of course, if you want to be private, I think WhatsApp probably is the last place I would, at least if I wanted to be sure.
Yes, but the thing that with WhatsApp is, of course, that, and this is why we do a lot of insecure stuff online anyway. It's because it's convenient and everybody has it, and your contacts are in there already. It started out from the big Facebook, then all your contacts are in there. Now I think even Instagram, one of those, Meta has bought a lot of those things, and all of them are now connected to each other, and it's convenient. And this is really one thing that people will notice. The more secure you want to be, the more inconvenience you actually are going to get. And this is, there's always this balance of convenience and security.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's why we have become more convenient, but also our privacy is so much smaller now than it was just a few years ago.
Yes, most definitely. And the same goes now with all the AI stuff. Not so much the LLMs themselves, the models, but rather the way everything is implemented. Because whatever you type in on those web pages goes straight to OpenAI or straight to X or straight to Meta.
Hmm.
They get all the data that you type in, and people share way more in those chat windows than they would normally do. So yeah.
Is it true also that OpenAI and ChatGPT also index every search inquiry or chat?
Yes. Well, unless you pay a premium and then you have to. There are ways around it, but it's convoluted. For most of the
Hmm.
people, yes. Um,
Hmm.
they use it for training feedback. But the same thing goes for everything you do in Office 365 now with Microsoft's Copilot.
Hmm.
And Microsoft also has GitHub. So for all the programmers out there, your code already has been indexed. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. When I look at the data traffic on a couple of sites I'm monitoring, there's a couple of honeypots as well. It is now at the point that the AI scrapers, the data scrapers, are generating more traffic than the normal visitors. And this is, I have a couple of pretty high traffic sites, and scrapers are really like every moment of the day, all the time.
Could you just please try to explain why they scrape internet and what they use it for?
Yes. For that, really a small explanation of what an AI or an LL, so one of these models is. It's just um, a prediction machine. This is the shortest way that I can explain. And what we do is we get all of the information that people have said, like our talks. If you have a transcription, you put it in,
Hmm.
makes a statistical formula, and predicts whatever should come next. And for that, you really need to have a ton of data, a ton of data from everybody. And actually, we are at the point, the reason why we now have this AI is because we have created a perfect storm to actually be able to build it. First, we had the big boom about gaming, graphic cards,
Hmm.
consoles, PC gamers. So the graphics cards became more powerful. I'll explain in a bit why that's important. Then the other part was of course that the whole social media, everybody sharing everything publicly to everybody.
Hmm.
You have a lot of data about how people talk to each other because this is important for these LLMs because those
Hmm.
LLMs they cannot do anything. They just predict if Joachim said hello, then my response should be hello because I've seen this in a million other chats.
Hmm.
And this is what an LLM actually does. There's no intelligence in there. Yeah, and these graphics cards, they do all the computations because it's just one extremely big statistical formula which is generated.
Yeah.
This is a model. So when I say hello, then it calculates and it says, because I've seen a million times hello and good day as a response, I have a couple of them which are almost equal. I choose one at random and then I go to the next sentence. So what we did, we all shared and trained all these AIs. In fact, there's a really nice book. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention book titles or something.
Yeah, sure, of course.
It's Empire of AI.
Okay, Empire of AI.
Empire of AI, and
Okay.
um, it is about the early days of OpenAI, and in it is explained how they actually trained the first models by just buying all the data from Reddit. And Reddit
Ah.
is like this huge forum site where people have lots of conversations. Like somebody posts a subject,
Hmm.
and then you have this enormous amount of discussions. And Reddit was really good for that because the subjects are already categorized like soccer or politics or anything like that. That's a subreddit. And then the value of each reply is also being curated by everybody upvoting or downvoting something. So it's
Hmm.
really valuable data for training an LLM. This was the original training for OpenAI. And you can now see the same thing going on with code because, of course, Microsoft had all of GitHub, so they can train all of the code that's in there. But they use things like Stack Overflow, where people also curate it and say, oh, this is a good answer, this is not a good answer. So you have lots of early training data, because all of us, without privacy in mind, shared everything we had. And the same goes for images. We started tagging our images in metadata. Like this is Auntie May, this is Uncle Carl. We put those in, we share them. And then things like Amazon Recognize or Bedrock, they can also train on that, because they see, oh, okay, this is the circle. And if I have those pixels, that's a face. And this is how we all train it. And the same goes on with the CAPTCHA, which we all had to do for years. Like, oh no, not another stop or traffic light. And then you have to the traffic light. But what you actually do is teach AIs how to recognize a bicycle, a car. And the more things it can recognize, the easier the image composition gets. Because after a while, it knows that if there's a bike here, there's a high probability of a road being there. And all of those kind of things, it's all a big probability game. But yeah, the whole of the world trained the AI. It's not just those companies. Don't blame just them.
No, but I think in a way they exploited the things that everyone wanted with the free internet. They wanted to have a lot of communication, open dialogue with whoever they wanted, whenever. So yeah, there was data and they could use it. So I think good on them for doing it, but I think maybe it can backfire a little bit for us now.
Yes, and then this also has one of the things that we noticed in the early days when software was done. You always, when you install something, you get this big EULA and say you have to read this, especially with the Apple stuff. That's fun. Apple has one of the longest, and most people just didn't read it. They just click next, 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 finish. Then
Yes.
like a race. How long does it
One
take?
of the first things I learned on the internet was just accept, accept. Yes.
And one of those things that they're asking you is, do you agree sharing all your data with us? And you probably said yes somewhere, which you didn't know, and then they're legally allowed to do that. And then this is again this convenience. It's a bit like smoking or one of these other bad habits. You don't notice the effects for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it's like having too much sugar, smoking, all of those things. When you're 20, you feel invulnerable. You do all of that, you go party, and then later on, when you're older, then you suddenly feel the backlash from what you did there. But you can't fix it. You can't go back in time. And the same goes with all our privacy stuff. So this is why a lot of privacy advocates always push really hard, like, please do it now. That this urgency never stops. Because if you don't do it now, even if it doesn't change anything for you right now, these are all decisions for over a long time. And that's a really a big problem in a lot of people's head. Like delayed gratification versus instant gratification.
Yeah. Okay. But we in Europe we have had an EU Parliament that's really had to focus on internet privacy. Would you say that they have had a good track record of helping us Europeans?
Well, had the past tense is really the good word here, because just today I saw that they might backtrack on AI being allowed to be trained on our data, and want to get back on a lot of other privacy measures. Like, all right, forget about the cookie banner, forget about being tracked. They're talking about all that, and
Yeah.
one part is, of course, the really big tech lobby, but they're not the only ones. Law enforcement and being able to control people is the other one, of course. One thing that you always see if there's a country where there's turmoil, political turmoil, one of the first things that the government always tries to do is quickly disable the internet, because people can talk to each other.
Yes.
And it's really difficult if people can talk to each other without being a big mob outside in the street. In last century, people needed to go in a protest in the street, and it was easy for the government to identify, okay, all of these people, we just clobber them with a couple of big sticks, and people don't want to protest anymore, and they cannot
Oh.
get together. Nowadays, you can have groups of thousands of people communicating asynchronously without the government even seeing it.
Hmm.
And most governments, they try to be benign and try to do good things, well, in their own vision. And it's no problem if a vision of how a country should be run, if people differ of opinion. That's simply life, and that's how politics should work. However, the moment you get an autocracy or a dictator or any government that simply wants to control their people a little bit over the line, this can be turned against the people. And this is also one thing why privacy is really, really important. Let me give you a really nice example, which I'm still proud of, um, even though there's still people trying to attack it every time. In the Netherlands, we vote with a red pencil and paper.
Okay.
Even though we were one of the first to adopt the internet and being digital and all those kind of things. But there's a reason for that. If you vote, we have the voting secret. That means nobody is allowed to know how you vote. That means that nobody can blackmail me because
Hmm.
somebody says, I'm going to hurt your family. I say, okay, I will vote whatever you say. And when I'm in the voting booth, nobody can see it. I can still vote whatever I want. So
Hmm.
it makes it difficult or almost impossible for somebody to be blackmailed in that. We had the first voting computers over here. And because in the Netherlands we have a really strong hacker culture, and not the criminals, but just
White
curious,
hats.
yeah, just people who are curious and want to break stuff and see how everything works. We had an organization called We Don't Trust Voting Computers.
Hmm.
And with every iteration, we showed, all right, we can manipulate from a distance the votes in there. We can see what somebody is doing. All of these things, every time all those systems failed. And in fact, in our voting commission, there's a ton of people who are also in the hacker community. And this is why we still use the pencil and paper, because actually we haven't found anything digital or mechanical yet, which keeps all of the all of the parameters correct for keeping things private.
Hmm.
And as soon as you go online or digital, there's always small pieces of information leaking out. It doesn't matter how good you are, even in air-gapped systems, and air-gapped means there's no network
Hmm.
connection between them. Um, there's always information leaking out. And you always have to think, okay, am I okay with that? Do I care if that information is being shared?
Hmm.
It reminds me, if I'm allowed to, about an experiment that I did. I give myself a challenge every year about up to €100, and I have to buy some equipment that everybody can buy from a hardware store. So you could do it, my neighbors could do it, any student can do it. And one of these is I bought like 14 Wi-Fi dongles, like the plug-in, the USB things, and then you have a
Okay.
Wi-Fi access. And the USB hub, of course. It's a bit more involved, but I don't want to help anybody might be doing this. So I'm going to skip a couple of technical parts, but
Okay.
I'm giving you presentations on it, so you probably could find a more detailed explanation. You have the 14 Wi-Fi dongles, one for each channel or frequency of the Wi-Fi. And
Okay.
if you listen to all these frequencies, you see, of course, all the Wi-Fi going on. Wi-Fi is built up out of layers, and it's a couple of layers. It's called the OSI layers, OSI, and there's like 7 layers. And the top layer is where everything happens, like our camera pictures and application stuff. But the bottom layer, which is called the infrastructure or network layer, it has a couple of interesting properties which are not. No, let me say it different. They have a couple of interesting properties because it's radio. A radio has no physical link, so it needs to tell for each thing it sends out in this ether, its source, like I'm the device, and the recipient, like the access point. So,
Hmm.
and from the access point, of course, the other way around, from the access point to the device. So they need to have address stamps on them. and they need to be clear. They cannot be encrypted because you don't know which packets of all of the different devices and all of the different access points you have to decrypt. It's impossible to decrypt all of them in the hope that one of them might be yours. So you read the address stamps. But the thing is, everybody can read those address stamps because it's clear, it's not encrypted. So this is one thing that you can see. The next thing is, of course, how many bytes are in each packet, because it needs to say, okay, my radio burst is going to be this long and it will contain so many bytes. This also needs to be in the clear, otherwise the recipient doesn't know when it's done. And those three things, source, recipient, number of bytes, and of course the timestamp, because you can see at what time. Everybody with those 14 dongles, you can monitor it from everything around, like 400-500 meters around you. And if you buy some more specialist equipment, you could even go further.
Okay.
And now you're thinking, what can I do with that? Basically, you can spy on everybody in your neighborhood, and you have a bit like Marvel's Daredevil vision, like this radar vision.
Okay. Yeah.
Because whenever somebody switches on the television at home, and if they don't have a network cable on it, I can see that because the television will say, I'm an LG, because you can see that because of a hardware identifier. I'm an LG television and I go to this access point. And in the beginning, it's just a little bit of packets because it's a TV guide that's being, and then you can see, oh, now it's a lot of data going from the access point to the television. That means somebody is watching television. This is a simple one. But you can also see if somebody is awake at home, because if you put your mobile phone face down, it starts to beacon, and which is just saying, hello access point, I'm here, hello access point, I'm here. It starts to beacon a lot less. And if you're doing social media, you're doom scrolling, then you download a lot of videos. You can also see that. But you can also see who is at home, how many people are at home. If somebody has a party, you can see so many things about people, all their behaviors. And if you have people with mesh networks or extenders, you can even see which part of the room they are in. If they have smart lighting, you can see which lights they turn on, turn off. All of those things, everybody can see at the moment right now. And it's only like 25, maybe 100 euros maximum. That's all you need.
And you think that you are safe behind your curtains, but you're not.
No. I've seen things which I also verified, like cheating and changing of a relationship. And because if you put everything in a specific database, a time series database, you get all the patterns of people. The first thing I saw when I put all the data just in the database, without any analysis, I could just see people waking up and going to work, and then coming back home and going to sleep. You can see that's just the most simplest one that you can see. And then you can also see if somebody watches erotic content. And this is also really a privacy problem, because I can see now if somebody on Wi-Fi watches some erotic content. You can see that by patterns, but you can even identify some of the television stations that people watch, because the pattern of the traffic matches something else. All of those kind of things, and even more, if you really study it, you can get a lot more out of it as well.
Yeah, and this reminds me of science project the Norwegian television actually did here. They bought packages of for advertisers, and they started to unpack all the data, and they could track people really intimate.
Yes.
They could see people getting a new job. They could see people getting a new baby. They could see a lot of the things that you'd have for yourself in your day-to-day life.
Yes.
So yeah, I think this the reason why we don't focus more on our privacy is that it's not so visible for us.
Yes, it's completely away from our experiences.
Mm.
Sometimes I think we just exist to carry these around,
Mm.
carry our mobile devices around, because our digital personas are doing actually all the business. They pay
Mm.
for us, they receive the email, they receive the messages, and our physical us is just there to either consume it or to
Mm.
produce it. Um, and the reason why a lot of privacy advocates, actually, if you make a graph of it, a lot of them are my age. There's a specific reason for that. I'm in my 50s. I grew up without internet and even computers at home. It wasn't there. So you learned a lot more about interactions and things that could happen in a more this is happening to you way. When you go to when we went to the bank, you had to talk to the bank manager, which was
Mm.
the first time is really like a core memory thing. Like you're getting nervous, and then maybe
Mm.
they're saying so, and all of these things are ingrained. And for us, um, if I do the banking online, it's still the same feeling. I have still the same connotations with all of
Mm.
those physical activities, um, because I know it just now digital, but it's the same thing. And
Yeah.
a lot of people who are growing up like with the digital natives generation, they don't have that. The only interaction and the only um, feedback they get is either colored pixels on a screen and some audio. There is nothing
Mm.
else. Everything else is gone from the bandwidth of communication or triggering. So it's only like colored pixels, sound, that's your world.
Yeah.
And this makes it hard to have different feelings or different connotations with things happening. Because
Mm.
everything is just the changing of those pixels and nothing else.
Yeah, it's. I think it is kind of strange, and I think that when it comes to banking and internet, I think we will have a quite huge change in Europe the next years. So maybe we could talk a little bit about the future now. How do you see the future of the internet, privacy, and are there some regulations that might be problematic for us?
Yeah, the future of the internet, I think, and part of me, I'm always in a dystopic mood. So it probably won't happen like that because the rest of my family is quite happy, and I've been wrong about this topic stuff, luckily enough, quite a lot. But I see it mostly that it will split up into a commercialized internet.
Okay.
The governments might want to act as if they want to control it, but somebody needs to pay for it. And if the governments don't pay for it, then the citizens will have to, either through the ISP, and you will see that will become expensive, and then you'll get things like sponsored internet connection. Like, all right, if you first watch an advertisement of YouTube, YouTube already does this like 2 minutes advertisement. Then you can
Mm.
have your internet for an hour, or if you put your fingerprint scan, things will become more commercialized. And because we can now do microtransactions, we get so many different sponsored items, and the really free stuff, like the open source things and people doing things for nothing, it will get more and more difficult to even run it. As you can already see that all the Office stuff is going to Office 365. I'm a Linux person. I always have trouble in exchanging documents with other people. They tell me, put it on the OneDrive or just share it via your Google Sheets. I
Mm.
don't have those because I don't want those. I want a computer that I own with some storage that I own, with all my data that I own. But people are moving away from that. And it
Yeah.
means that only commercial offerings like Google Office or Microsoft Office remain. And you can already see it in Windows 11. You get advertisements. Windows 11 has advertisements in an operating system on hardware that you bought. So this is what I think is will be getting more and more. The other way, of course, to pay for it is just say yes, blanket yes, to you can use all my data to train whatever you want, to do whatever you want, to sell me whatever you want. And because people get tired after a while, and there's not enough privacy advocates around with good words, this is what I think the future will hold. Like advertisements or selling yourself everywhere. Otherwise, you cannot. You will not own anything anymore. Governments, they actually will play a role, but rather in either lawmaking and for law enforcement, and not so much anymore as bringing service, because you can already see it. Governments pay through their nose to host their data on things like Azure or AWS. Those companies are more powerful than those governments because all of the governments on the planet need to use them. And if they say, oh, we switch it down and we just say we blame the intern, what are you going to do? You can only ask them for a lot of money, but if it's down, if it's shut down, it's shut down. And
Yes.
the legal departments will not help you. So governments will become more and more dependent on those companies. And
So what you're saying that Amazon and Microsoft is probably more powerful than most governments.
I think so, yeah. I really think so. I've
It's a interesting take, and if everyone uses it, I can agree.
yeah, but if everybody slowly is going to use it because there's almost no choice. You can see that free software like Linux and it is a bit on the rise, but it's only like 5 or 6% this year of the desktop market, so it's pretty much negligible. But Apple is doing the same thing, and then
Yes, because you're comparing the Office 365 to Apple's iCloud.
yes,
Yes.
all the cloud storage offering, you will see that after a while, you will only have enough local storage to just do something locally, but everything else will be stored in the cloud. And the problem with
Yes.
everything being stored in the cloud is that somebody else decides if I can access it.
Yes.
It's
And
simple
you're
as that.
probably not even the exact owner of your things either.
No, exactly. And then you can licenses say you are allowed. You already see this in some software. You don't own the software. You're allowed to use it.
Hmm.
And there's even petitions now in Europe for gamers who want game studios to modify games so they don't die suddenly. Things like when people have their own servers and say, I can run this server for free. But
Yeah.
game company says, no, we don't want to, click, and it's gone.
Hmm.
And all of those things, they will happen. And so I really think that big tech is already more powerful than governments. Governments won't admit it because they say we can make a law. Well, good luck.
Yeah.
If Microsoft needs to, because if your law says Microsoft needs to switch off everything, AWS needs to switch off everything, good luck running a government.
Hmm.
So that's
Yeah.
really the issue.
And that's actually pretty interesting to think about. Um, I've sometimes said in this show that I think that peer-to-peer internet is the most powerful technology made this century.
I'm going to contradict you on one part
Okay, please.
because the peer-to-peer thing was actually the whole initial design of the internet.
Of course. Yeah.
And
Okay, then I will modify it with saying that we have been cracked down already, and we have no more peer-to-peer possibilities. Even here in Norway, there are a lot of peer-to-peer sites that is forbidden.
yes,
To actually access sites and download legal things, you have to have a VPN today to get access.
yes, and I can still remember the times when there was of course, also a lot of illegal sharing, but a lot of software where people just shared stuff like code before GitHub. A lot of the technical communities we use things like Gnutella or anything like that to share documents because it was easy. You didn't have to know where the other person was in what country, but also FTP servers, those kind of things. And the early internet was really about sharing. Nowadays, it's
Yeah.
not so much about sharing, but rather sharing something that gets you validation or internet points or clicks or views or whatever. Again, it's about monetization and gain, and not so much about communication and sharing anymore. Um, I just want to go back one small bit about the governments and laws,
Okay.
because we also have the chat control stuff.
Yes. Can you please explain to us what's about to happen in Europe about chat control?
Yes. Well, Germany said no, but with laws, if at first you don't succeed, you can try again and again and again until you finally get the yes vote. The thing is that we all know is the moment something is brought to agenda once, you will know that at some point in the future it will be said yes. Um, and this is again is my dystopic view. Let's talk about chat control. Chat control is under the guise, and I really need to explain this a bit more, under the guise of protecting children from child sexual abuse material.
Who can disagree with that?
Yes, who can disagree with that? This has been since the early days the big stick that all politicians always use. And if you look at everything that's going on in the world, I think privacy protects more than. But the problem is, the moment you say, if you make the child sexual abuse less important than anything else, they will always twist the words in, oh, so you're pro child sexual abuse, which is not true. Intelligent people can have contradicting ideas in their minds at the same time.
Yes.
And for some reason, politicians, well, they have to leave something behind, I think.
Yeah.
But chat control was under that guise, it was the idea that, okay, we have to find a way to see if somebody shares child sexual abuse material with somebody. And because, again, of convenience, there have been a couple of cases where a lot of evil people have been sharing those the material through the chat apps.
Of course, yeah.
So
It's convenient, right?
convenient, yeah. Everybody shares pictures all the time, so it's just as easy to do those. Well, the simple idea is, all right, the first idea was with chat control, everything gets an unencrypted line to the app provider, and then we check there. Of course, everybody was against that because it means all the images go there. And, well, all the images go there anyway, but hey. But all the images go there, and people didn't like that. So the next idea was, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to make a hash. And a hash is a mathematical function where you have a big image and you make a small number out of it. So it's just a mathematical formula, and you put all the data of the image to it, and you get a number. And with those numbers, you can easily compare, but you cannot, from the number, get back the image. So it feels really private. So if we make a screenshot out of this image, we get a hash, but we cannot calculate this image back again. So we can share these hashes, and you will never know what was on the screen. So it sounds really good. And the idea was that we put a list of illegal hashes on your device, on my device, on everybody's device, and every time you want to share an image, it will calculate that number and check in the database, is this an illegal image?
That you have already stored somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea is then that if those numbers match, then law enforcement gets a notification saying this hash, this number was found on this device. And this, in theory, in really top theory, would enable law enforcement to really quickly find people that have that material. However, if you think a little bit longer, there's a ton of problems with this. The first let's go with the technical. If you have an implementation, a technical implementation, it needs servers, it needs infrastructure, it needs maintenance. At some point, and we've seen this in the rest of the history, everything on the internet degrades. If you don't maintain it for some reason, it just like things going, put it outside a wooden cabin, if you don't maintain it, it will degrade. And everything on the internet has exactly the same. So this will be a permanent cost that needs to be borne by the governments. And by governments, I always mean the people that pay the governments, the taxpayers.
Taxpayers, yeah.
Yes. And if you don't maintain it, there's another problem with it. Criminals at some point will find get access to it. If you don't keep all the security up to date, just like with your own machines, you need to keep security up to date to all your hardware. And your hardware isn't static because it will move all the time. Operating systems will move. So this also means the maintenance is never done. At the moment, there's very little software that still runs like 10 years from now because the operating system has changed, the hardware has changed, the network has changed, everything has changed. So you need to recompile it, rebuild it, and then there's new bugs in it. You need to fix the bugs again, the holes. So this is a big technical problem. And if the criminals get access to it, well, then they can put in the hashes whatever they want and figure it out.
They can just change the hashes?
They can change the hashes, remove them, or just see and blackmail people because they can add their own hashes for normal erotic imagery and then see everybody likes this. Now we can blackmail them. There's tons of stuff you can even identify specific people. Let's say I know you like to take pictures of your family, which you sometimes share on Instagram. So what I can do is I can take your Instagram picture, make it a hash, and I can identify your specific mobile phone because you have that image on your mobile phone. Those kind of things you can also do. That's the technical part. We have more problems with the whole chat control stuff. It's not just the technical part, it's also the political part. Because how it will work is, of course, all the different countries, law enforcement, contribute to that enormous list of hashes because they found something, they add to it. And because we cannot calculate back the original image, a malicious government could put in political images. Like, let's say, for instance, you have Antifa banners, or you have, I don't know, socialist banners or far-right banners, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Just the other side.
Yes, it doesn't matter. And those hashes could then also be identified. But because nobody operating this big system will see what the original images were, they need to trust the government.
Yeah, so it's, you have no proof that it actually is illegal.
Yes. But the local law enforcement get notified if the image is on your device. So the government suddenly sees all the people that are against them. And so this is another big problem with this whole idea. And the last problem is rather all of this needs to go again to a commercial party because it goes then through Meta. And of course, Meta could, they don't, but they could remove hashes, add hashes, if their government asks for it. So there's probably a lot of pieces of leverage that we shoehorn in to do child sexual abuse material protection, and it's all completely useless. I don't know if I've sent you the GitHub repo already, but I've made a couple of examples, and I talk about this. I'm calling it parkour communications. I can send to you without building new stuff anything I want because of the different layers of the internet. There is no law that says my bytes that I send out from my device need to have a specific content. I can, as long as I have the source and recipient correct, my packets will go to you. And one thing that people really need to understand is everything online, all this awesome technology that we have, is nothing but still zeros and ones. And we describe how we interpret a sequence of zeros and ones. But what I can do is, you and me, we can have a different agreement on interpreting the zeros and ones in a completely different order.
And then you could just have another encryption or reading. Yeah.
Encryption is one thing, but you can also say, let's say for an image, this is a really simple example. An image consists for each pixel, for each little part, out of 3 values, red, green, and blue. And it's either a lot of red or a little of red, a lot of blue, little blue, a lot of green, little green. If I just modify a value of one of these pixels and just subtract 1, you will not see a difference. People will not see a difference in that. However, I can use now all those ones, the least significant value, to encode a completely different set of zeros and ones in this image. It's called steganography.
Okay.
And steganography means I can encode data inside images. I can do it in video streams. I can do it anywhere. And it means I can have a website with all cute puppies, but if an evil other person knows exactly what puppy to select, they can decode child sexual abuse material out of that image again. So you can hide images in images. And this is all, and you can do it not just with images, but you can do it with Excel sheets, with packets. I have a GitHub repo where I just show a couple of different ways that you can do it, because all of it is interpretation. There is no protocol law. The reason the internet works is by cooperation. We have the Internet Engineering Task Force, and they have a couple of standards. And the only thing that happens if I don't adhere to that standard is that my data doesn't reach you. There's no SWAT team coming through my door saying you did an incorrect DNS request. No. And some criminals sometimes also use this. Let's say I run my own name server, like the translation service. That means all the requests for a specific host arrive at my machine, right? And you want to send me a covert message. So you say, hello Adrianus.Warmenhoven.nl. And my name server now in the log file has, hello Adrianus. I can read that message. It will send back, this host does not exist. So anybody monitoring our conversation, the DNS will see, oh, Joachim did a wrong request.
Yeah.
But I still have your message.
Yeah, so we can send the messages without anyone actually knowing that we've sent it.
Exactly, and this is what I mean by parkour communication. I can even send you a message, for instance, if I know the place where you live and I want to send you a message which law enforcement will never see. I go to Just Eat. I think you have that also in Norway.
Yeah.
I go to Just Eat. I order a pizza for you on your address, and in the delivery message, the small box, I put my real message. So you get the physical receipt to your house, and my message is on the receipt. I have never once digitally sent you something.
No.
And I've even, just to make insult to injury, I've done a project where I can beat quantum computing with just €10 of wooden sticks.
I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
I don't have it. At one of the tech days with NordVPN, I demonstrated that you can mass copy if you have just like €10 of thin wooden sticks, and you can make a small device just from wood and glue and some rubber bands. More isn't needed. And you can make an encoding with zeros and ones, which I can mass copy like really quickly. And it's just wooden sticks. There's nothing digital in there. And if somebody were to apprehend me, I just pull off the rubber bands and everything falls out, so I have plausible deniability as well. There's also other things that people don't think about. The size of a micro SD. a micro SD like this big.
Mhm.
I have a couple of them here lying around, but they can be up to a terabyte nowadays.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
yeah, so if I have a small bag or even a pigeon, I can send you a terabyte of CSAM material by pigeon, by homing pigeon.
Hmm.
So all of these laws, and then this is a generalized statement for me, is about controlling and modifying everything that's going on the internet is only on the top layer, which is ridiculous because all the criminals go just a layer lower or they just
Hmm.
skip the internet altogether. And they will still be able to send out all those messages. It's just at the moment you catch all these criminals because they are also susceptible to this whole feeling of convenience.
Hmm.
But as soon as the convenience becomes too dangerous for them, they will just as easily skip it and do the other thing. But
Hmm.
all the measures that you did to catch them are still in place for all the other law-abiding citizens. And
Yeah.
this is really where I get a bad feeling about all these law enforcement measures. And I do understand that you feel, I talk and work a lot with law enforcement. I get their feeling of sometimes feeling powerless while the politicians make promises. And at some point, the only way to achieve things in a reasonable frame of time would be to just monitor everything.
Everything, every time at once.
Yes, the panopticon. And the law enforcement people self, they know that it is not the way forward,
Hmm.
but they get pressured into getting results in some form or another.
Yeah, they have to digitize them also.
Yes, and
Hmm.
this is really where I think that society should change rather than the technology, because we manage as a race to get off the idea that as soon as I have a hammer, I'm going to bash in people's heads.
Hmm.
We don't do that anymore. But
Hmm.
hammers, chainsaws, all of these dangerous stuff, any DIY store sells those things.
Yeah.
So you could get those. Um, but we have, as a society, thought, nah, it's simply not a good idea, and it doesn't make for good living to if we keep doing that all the time. And this is what I personally think we also should do with the internet. Get in our ingrained in our lives that, all right, doing all this criminal stuff, but also selling out everything, only commercial, convenience, all those kind of things, and all the dark patterns which are there. Maybe they are not so good for our living. Sometimes you
Hmm.
see a little outburst of people saying we need to touch grass and digital detox. It will never happen.
No.
This convenience is way too big. And it has changed our life so much for the better.
Hmm.
Um, I think we should really find ways of talking to our children, talking to our family, friends. Um, Humanity has to change as a whole. This is what I personally think,
Yeah.
because really the technology itself, it's impossible to put how to say, the genie back into the bottle.
Yeah.
We now know, somebody like me, I could, with my soldering stuff and some wire stuff, I can make a radio, and a friend of mine
Hmm.
can make a radio. We know how to use encoding, we can transmit stuff. It will be impossible unless you stop with electricity for everybody, which might also happen.
Hmm.
Uh, it will be impossible to really stop this whole connectivity and digital and that kind of stuff, because it
Hmm.
actually knowledge rather than all the devices that we see, but it's the knowledge that we can do those things. And
Hmm.
a lot of hackers, makers, a lot of people who studied stuff, we know how to build these things. Maybe not as cheap as Alibaba does, but I can,
So if you have to, you can do it.
yes, I can make a basic computer from the stuff I have.
Hmm.
In fact, well, if you look at back at me, I used to do that because it was the only way to have a computer. But
Yeah,
there's more,
there's a lot of history there, I can see.
but there's more people that can do these things,
Mm.
and also people now know that if you have ones and zeros, you can encode them. If you Google about parkour communications or some of my other talks about that, I have an example where we just use black and white toilet paper in a window, because then you can also do a QR code and,
Yeah.
and send out data. It's impossible,
Mm.
so I'd rather really have. Um, I think we shouldn't move that fast anymore, because this is really what's getting everybody. Like the operating systems that change, the apps that change, everything changes.
Mm.
So there's no baseline and there's no good habits to be formed. You cannot form.
No.
Nothing stays the same long enough to form good habits.
Have you read the legislation on chat control? Or yeah,
Yeah, well, to be honest, I did it with ChatGPT.
of course, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Because when I like to have agreements with people, I think it should go both ways.
no,
Does the same agreement say that we should have more insight to what the government does?
absolutely. I think
Yeah, I think it should be, but what I've experienced the last couple of years is that governments are more secretive than they have been for the last 20 years.
yes, and chat control. Good that you remind me of that. I
Mhm.
kind of skipped that point. In the chat control legislation part, they exempted the politicians. So
Okay, then it's just to say no. It's no.
yeah,
It's
um,
very easy.
because the literal proposition was we monitor everybody except all the politicians. This is the literal of chat control. So it means politicians could, in theory, I'm not saying they are doing this, because I don't think so, but in theory they could send child pornography to each other all day long and nobody would know it, and they could use WhatsApp or whatever because they were exempt.
So it's like this meme with the QAnon. It's probably true in the end.
Yeah, rules for thee, but not for me.
Mm.
Um, the,
But I think that I will definitely be a politician from now on.
yeah,
It would be the best for me, at least. For my privacy, it's better.
yes, I think we should all be politicians. Um, but yeah, the governments should be more transparent and not just by reports, but also about how the infrastructure works, how they pay for things, because basically the government should be us. It
Mm.
it shouldn't be. Um, you can see this with children. They see governments like this separate entity and
Mm.
us, but governments should be us. They should be our
Mm.
representatives. They should the people that work to make the things that we want as a community. And I think that's slowly sliding a bit away because there's way too many.
There's a lot of layers in between
Yeah,
a normal human and a government.
yes, and it's also so sometimes for some people it's so big they don't have oversight of what they're doing.
Mm.
Um, yeah,
Okay. Is there something else in this Digital Services Act other than chat control that is problematic that you think?
I think the whole concept, as I explained earlier, the whole concept of this whole monitoring and this way of law enforcement is problematic, because
Mm.
any solution at all that you start from that standpoint will always have this infrastructure, cost, and
Mm.
uh, uh, um, government abuse problem.
Yes.
There's no way around it, uh, because
Mm.
every technical solution will have that, and
Mm.
every political solution on that as well.
Yeah.
This is really something that we need to do the difficult work, the hard work of changing society, and not so much government saying society has changed, because that's basically what they
Mm.
want, the quick fix, and it will not never ever work.
No. I also think that, as we said, that there is a lot of layers between regular citizens and government. I think this will really push us farther from each other also.
Yes, and the other thing is, of course, they will only implement this with tons of commercial offerings. There's no government software developer, so it will always be a commercial entity, and a commercial entity will have some. They will have privacy because as a commercial entity,
Mm.
so you don't have any say who's going to develop it, which literal person is going to develop it, who is going to administer it.
Hmm.
All,
Yeah,
there's way too many problems in any of these solutions.
yeah. Okay, I think that maybe we should round this up a little bit, but I think you actually had some words about Linux earlier. Could you please just give us why should people use Linux?
The first thing about Linux is I started doing that in the 1990s, which wasn't a good idea because then you had 33 floppies. It took all day to install it. Nowadays, you can install it just as easy as Windows or Mac OS. Linux is a free and libre of software, and I need to explain that a little bit. Um, you have something called free as in beer. If I give you a beer and you don't pay for it, it's free as in beer.
Hmm.
This is what we usually think about when we say something is free. But we also have something which is free as in thought and free as in speech, which are immaterial.
Yeah.
And the thing with Linux is it's based on both of these. So you have free software, but you're also allowed to do whatever you want to that software, what you
Hmm.
want. So you get the source code as well, if you want to. You don't have to, but you can. So it means if you have a Linux system, that system is truly yours. If you're technical enough, you can make it do anything you want. If you don't like
Hmm.
how it talks to a specific piece of hardware, you just change the source code and your machine does what you want. So for
Hmm.
control freaks of technology, it's awesome. But there's also another thing. It's because of this open source community that works on Linux, they're extremely strict about privacy and all of those kind of things. So most Linux distributions that when you install them, they will not send back a lot of data, and if they do, you can easily disable it. There will be
Okay.
settings. Um, Software gets vetted, and it means that there's a lot of software available from various vendors as well. I've been running on Linux now for like maybe 30 years. It works fine. I'm a bit masochistic, so I have a security Linux, which is Cube's OS, which is even worse than normal Linux. But even that works because we can see each other. I have a camera, audio. The only thing I cannot do is is do gaming. But
Yeah.
for that, I have a different device which sends everything I do on that to my.
Yeah. Well, you have to pick your battles, right?
Yes, and but also I've given my wife a couple of years ago. I've changed a laptop into Linux, and it gets updates all the time. She doesn't have to pay for it. And she hasn't noticed at once anything missing because
Yeah.
everything still works. She does all the finances on it. She can do the office because of the cloud stuff. Um, Anything works really fine. And the other
Hmm.
thing is, there's one of these laptops, the black one. It's like 13 years old. No, it's even older than that one, and it still runs. I can still use it, and because Linux does not do hardware obsolescence. If you can
No.
compile a version for it, really old tablets still work. And really, I'm a huge fan of Linux. Actually, most people have Linux, but they don't know it because everybody who has an Android phone actually has Linux. It's a Linux kernel,
Yes.
and then there's a little
I heard that.
yeah, and then there's a little top layer on top of it, which they call Android. But actually, you just have a Linux phone.
Hmm.
And it's in so many devices, most servers run on it. It really deserves more love for the desktop. And we always, the Linux desktop is always pushed back by Apple or by Microsoft but you cannot have a glass background or like new liquid glass interface.
No.
No, and
Yeah.
Other than that,
Okay.
everything is
I can feel the love you have for Linux.
absolutely.
Mhm. Okay. And to sum up the other things that we talked about, it's chat control and Digital Services Act. It's probably a bad idea because it's so easy to circumvent.
Yes,
You can just you can do everything that you want without getting caught, and at the same time, everyone's messages will be intercepted.
yes, it will cost, it will degrade, it will not be a long-term solution. And again, the easiest way for anybody to circumvent it is a little bag of micro SD cards.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can send it by postal services, bring it,
Hmm.
pigeon, whatever. It doesn't have to be digital. It's just convenience.
Yeah. And also, you had one book um, that you wanted to recommend, which is Empire of AI.
Yes. And
Yes.
I also want to recommend it because Sam Altman personally tried to stop that book from being published. So
Okay.
that's really the reason.
I will. What's your thoughts about Sam Altman?
It
Or should we take that off camera without
no
transcriptions?
no I don't mind it. If I have an opinion, I speak it. No,
Hmm.
as a person, I think he's not so good in his business acumen because I cannot imagine in any universe um, recouping the amount of money he allowed his company to be invested in, like a
Hmm.
$1 billion. There is simply no way that you can make enough money for shareholders to have that amount of money to recover that, unless something really bad is in the works. And I don't know about that.
Hmm.
But
No.
so on a business standpoint, and the other thing is if you understand how LLMs and AI work, it's such a ridiculous amount of hype. It's just a prediction machine which
Hmm.
runs really well because of graphics cards, and that's it. That's really
Yeah.
the whole alpha and omega of AI at the moment. And the only reason it does so is because we already told it how to run.
Yeah. It's a magnificent con man, or what?
Well, Conman, he probably didn't start out with that.
No, no,
But
no. But maybe con man is probably a wrong word, but it has all the traits of
yeah,
it. Yeah.
digital snake oil would be rather selling it
Mm.
as a cure all for all of our problems.
Mm.
And the amount of money it must have gone to his head. I think you cannot have that much money in your company and only sell software and think there's ways to get that money back in some form. That
No.
it doesn't happen. Even Apple with their hardware and ridiculous margins, Apple has like 30% at least, or even higher than that, margin on anything they do, and they
Mm.
sell monitor stands for 1,500 euros, and people buy those, and they don't have that amount of money. So
Mm.
how are you going to do that with a bit of software that everybody could replicate? I don't know.
No. How easy would it be to actually replicate the code inside of ChatGPT?
Technically, that's not too difficult. There's a couple of hurdles where you need
Yeah.
for training. You need tons of CPU data power. This is
Mm.
why Google is now proposing having data centers in space. I
Mm.
kid you not. Um,
Yeah. No.
and the other thing is getting all the training data. When I was at Nord, actually Nord also uses an AI component in Threat Protection Pro, which is the antivirus.
Okay.
And um, it isn't an LLM, so you cannot chat to it. Well, you can try, but I don't think it will be sensible. But what we needed, we keep training it on malware, and
Yeah.
it will recognize malware by things that we haven't ever thought of. So AI works really well in that part. But for ChatGPT or OpenAI stuff, you need to have all the conversations of people, like the whole of the internet. And by now, I believe it has been copied like 5, 6, 7 times, the whole of the internet, because storage, you can get that.
Hmm.
Those are actually the big hurdles. Getting your training data, getting people to run the training pipelines, and there's of course the composition of a couple of technical parts. It is possible. You can already see that for instance in the Netherlands we have now NL GPT. Amsterdam has its own GPT.
Hmm.
Ministry of Defense have there's these models popping up everywhere, and you will see that for most of the tasks that we want to do, it is not that difficult. So this is also a thing why I think, how are you ever going to make that amount of money back?
It's I'm looking at the book cover here now. It's Inside the Reckless Race for Total Domination.
Yes.
Maybe.
No, well, you can see no, well, you can see that on the offerings what they do. If you look at ChatGPT, in the beginning it was this chat thing, which was
Yeah.
magical, and nowadays I can look at the internet for you. I make the summary for you. And suddenly a lot of tools that were outside of it, they've integrated. Now they have a browser and the Atlas browser, and I do even do the browsing for you. And so they're competing with just about every other piece of software out there, instead of because they probably realized selling just access with the API tokens will not give us enough money. The only way that we can do that is to be the single internet that everybody accesses. And then I think that will be the end game, like this Uber computer, and everybody has a voice interface where you talk to it. I don't know. I have no idea what he dreams of.
No. If we would were to compare it to Grok AI, what would you say? Have you tried it?
Yeah. In fact, together with another security partner of mine, we've been working for a year and a half on something called Feluda.ai.
Okay.
So we work a lot with AI. So I know how the things work. We test all of the models. What we do is we make it secure and for the whole businesses, for business enterprise, for enterprise AI.
Okay.
And we've done all the boring business stuff. But because we're security people, we know exactly what's going on. And we tested with all the models, and Grok AI is not that bad. If you chat with it, then of course you can bounce against its political views.
That is also true for ChatGPT.
Yeah, all of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, of course.
But Grok is a bit more unfiltered, let's say.
Yeah, extreme. I think sometimes it's actually more funny, but because it's so absurd,
Yeah,
what's been being said.
if I were to make characters of well-known AI offerings, then I would say that Grok is the tough kid at school with a leather jacket and a bike,
Yeah,
who sometimes says unpolitical things. Then OpenAI is rather the disgruntled nerd who wants world domination because he's really.
yeah,
And then you have Meta AI, which is horrible because it's always trying to be friendly and appease everybody. One of my hobbies is when we watch television is just try to get the Meta AI to do something stupid or say something wrong, and their guarding is getting better and better. And I was in New York a little while ago with Nord, and I just wanted to ask about New York, so some play. I'm not allowed to say anything political. I didn't want to ask anything political. All these guards are in Meta. So if you work with all of them, only the chatting is actually where they differ for most people. But to be honest, Grok is really nice if you give it tasks, because AI
yeah.
can do tool calling. So I can do a really good
Okay.
task-based prompt, and then Grok is actually quite good and
Yeah.
actually quite fast as well. So yeah,
I've been playing around with this now because I'm trying out a lot of different options, of course, because it's fun to see how they uh, what measures they actually take. So it's
Yeah.
It's pretty clear that it's different, and they have different ways of communicating.
For Europe, I would definitely try Mistral. Um,
Mistral?
Mistral.
Okay.
Mistral is really also quite important because in the Netherlands we have the ASML, the company that makes the things where you can make chips with. Uh,
Yeah.
and ASML has now I think, a really big stake in Mistral because they want to secure their AI future as well.
Hmm.
Mistral is French, and well, maybe it's a prejudice, but I think sometimes it shows. It's
Is that it's French?
yes, it's sometimes a bit curt in its answers, but it worked really well. And then
But what would you expect if it's been trained on French literature? Yeah, it would have to be.
yes, no, but Mistral is actually quite nice for
Okay.
task day-to-day stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but if you want to be cheap, no, not cheap. How do you say that? Frugal. That's a
Yeah.
good correct word. Um, then I would say download one of the Chinese models like Qwen or DeepSeek
Yes.
because they're actually also really good. The problem with
I played around with the DeepSeek in this earlier this year, and I was really impressed. Um, yeah.
the only thing you always need to remind with all of them, because you didn't train themselves, you don't know what biases or
Mm.
filters were trained into them.
Of course. Yeah.
So keep that in mind, and if you run things
Yeah.
locally, then there's no danger.
Yeah. Do you think that we will come to a place? Earlier, you said that you don't think that we will own anything, but do you think that the pendulum will swing and everyone will have their own uh, AI assistant that they have locally on their devices, either on your phone or on your desktop?
My happy dreams would be that,
Yeah,
but
mine too.
what I rather think is, I think Elon Musk gave a little bit away about that.
Okay.
Is they're going to use that to offload their data center costs. He already said
Yeah.
something about your Tesla, while it's charging, can also do computations, so they don't need to use the data center for Grok. And suddenly
Yeah.
you are paying for the training of Grok, which you then again have to pay for using it. So unless we get that,
That's really creative.
yeah, it is. I can deny I can deny that. But um, we have to be careful that we don't get a lot of fun stuff like all these hardware devices which we buy, so we pay
Hmm.
for them. We pay for the electricity, and then somewhere in the EULA says, well, whenever you're not using it, we're allowed to use it for whatever we want. That's the danger that I see with it. I would
Hmm.
love to have a more disconnected internet or
Yeah.
decentralized internet. Um, you had already talked about peer-to-peer. Um,
Hmm.
One thing I really want to mention is interplanetary file system, um, which is
Beautiful word.
it's blockchain. Forget about that I said blockchain because there's different connotations to that. But it's one of these file systems which, if you use it, it feels like it's floating around the world. There's no central server for it, and this is
Yeah.
it actually this is why it uses blockchain because once you put a file on it, you cannot remove it. By the way, so it's really for something to put on there. But I can share something with you on the interplanetary file system, and there's never a server between us, and it's
Hmm.
IPFS. It's called. So,
Okay.
and I would love more of those kind of things to be there, like this
Hmm.
ubiquitous shared computing stuff that helps us a little bit more than, oh, look, I've made a new AI video of Trump kicking kittens. That's what we all burn all that energy for at the moment.
Hmm.
Everybody making AI photos, and of course, the erotic industry being at the forefront. Um, Upload some images and make your own private videos.
That is crazy. Uh, I've seen the possibilities, and I've also seen this AI girlfriends, and yeah, uh, that when I'm going down that thought road, I always get
Yeah, but
depressed
we're not using
or
any.
dystopic.
Yeah, but we're not using any of that electricity and capabilities and powers to change anything for the good. Really,
Oh, oh no.
we can all use all the AI stuff, everybody, to help us to get better at let's distribute food, let's fix climate, let's see about the fuel, maybe energy. We don't do that. We create lots of images on TikTok, so we might get a couple thousand euros, those kind of things. And I always I circle back to we need to do something about society and really talk about this being selfish doesn't help the rest of us.
No. Well, Adrianus, I've had a blast. I really like these kind of conversations where it's a little bit philosophy, it's a little bit factual, and it's. I hope everyone's that has listened to us all this way have enjoyed this conversation.
I hope so too. Yeah, I liked it as well.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Adrianus for this conversation. It's been genuinely fascinating and more than a little unsettling to reflect on what today's internet really is and how the coming rules will affect us as citizens and everyday users. One question keeps echoing in my head. Why are we, the regular people, being watched more and more, while we are allowed to see less and less of what those in power are actually doing? That feels like a paradox we can't afford to ignore. Thank you for listening to Refleksjonsrommet. If this episode made you think, share it with someone who still says, I've got nothing to hide. See you in the next one.